your own wife possibly being a part of an alleged illicit crime ring? Ben Affleck apparently can, because supposedly he has been given tapes that have Jennifer Lopez herself in them when the police raided Sean Combs' home earlier this year. If you are new to this channel and have not been keeping up with the celebrity gossip, y'all better strap in, because it gets messy. A quick rundown of why these tapes are so important and why Lopez may be facing some serious charges. As of this year, Sean Combs is held at the Metropolitan Detention Center for quite the list of crimes. These include racketeering, and illicit intimate relations that all supposedly happened during his Diddy parties, to which these portions of the parties were called freak-offs. The Diddy parties were an iconic event to be a part of, which were hosted over a span of literal decades, from the 90s all the way to 2020. They were originally labeled as white parties, where people would follow a strict dress code of wearing all white, to which these ended around 2006. However, much more apparently went down at these parties, to which a photographer who worked with Diddy for 20 years named Fonseca stated she hadn't seen anything out of the ordinary when it came to the outside section of the party. But only specific people were allowed inside of the house. Who these people were, however, are still unknown, and she definitely wasn't one of them. She recalls a moment during one of his parties where Sean Combs was supposedly with a girl she had never seen before, and so, as she was hired to do, decided to take a photo of the two of them together. Sean Combs noticed this, however, and told his bodyguard to get her camera. Fonseca was surprised by this because in the entirety of those 2 decades she worked for him, never once did he ask for her camera. When she finally got it back, she noted how no photos were deleted, which was probably a smart move considering how many flags that would have raised. When Sean Combs' house was raided, there were a few notable things they discovered, such as narcotics, 1,000 bottles of baby oil, and alleged tapes hidden away. These supposed tapes apparently have information about what actually went down during these freak-offs, and that's where Jennifer Lopez comes in. Apparently the tapes that Ben Affleck was given after the raid of Diddy's home contain her being a part of the incident that happened in a nightclub back in 1999. Apparently, musician Moses Shine Barrow took the fall for Diddy during an intense scene that was going down, but JLo had lied, saying that Barrow was the one that started the incident in the first place, and that inevitably ruined his career by sending him to prison. Affleck even makes the comment of, they go raid Puffy's house, and they get all these videos of JLo doing this and JLo doing that. You're just gonna keep us in the dark like that, Ben? Come on, details, details! These tapes are apparently the reason for the strain on their relationship, and mayhaps might just be the reason for their divorce. A former CEO of Death Row Records states this: I'm quite sure they, FBI, probably called. It's a white man who got respect in the white world. I'm quite sure they said, we want to show you some things about your wife. Lopez and Diddy's relationship was a quick one, lasting only for about 2 years from 1999 to 2001, which was eerily around the time all these allegations had taken place. Diddy even tried to get back with her at one point too. I mean, yeah, it's frickin' Jennifer Lopez in the 90s, I would too. It's been reported that since then, Affleck has moved out of their $60 million home in Beverly Hills, and supposedly they're trying to keep it on the down low about them selling it too. The former CEO claims he is not surprised that Ben Affleck wants out ASAP after this. It's been no shock that Jennifer has been really stirring the pot when it came to her own publicity over the past year. From spitting gum in an assistant's hand to getting an employee at a hotel fired for a simple autograph. From what we know about Ben, his slate has been cleaner than hers. At least that's what the former CEO says. He ain't tripping off paparazzi. He's living his life. He got his own team. She done brought all that extra stuff out, and now that man, he won out. I don't blame him. He's got his own image to look out for too in this industry. And he has. And he's been working towards recovery with his own demons. But Lopez apparently didn't think that one through towards the end of last year. Supposedly, she was extremely insensitive to his problems when she made a launch for her own adult drink brand DeLola, when she had just recently walked down the aisle with Affleck. Lopez apparently doesn't even drink herself to help preserve her skin, which was confirmed to InStyle. Lopez was quick to backpedal though and say she only drinks for special occasions, since there are photos of her with a cocktail in her hand. Quoted herself, I know that a lot of people have been talking about, oh, she doesn't even drink, what's she doing with a cocktail out? And to tell you the truth, that was true for a long time. I didn't drink. A few years back, as you will see from several photos of me over the past 10, maybe 15 years, I have been having the occasional cocktail. And yet still hasn't addressed the tone-deaf launch when it came to her now ex-husband just made it about her. She's supposedly trying to regain her image after this mess unfolded, especially after one of her recent tours. This Is Me Now completely tanked in ticket sales. A source told the Daily Mail she is focused on her own work and wants 2025 to be the year she gets back to being herself. She isn't actively looking to date right now and is still processing losing Ben again. She, like most people, would love to have love in her life again. If something presents itself, then obviously life and love find a way. But she isn't looking to get into any new relationships. I'm curious to see what 2025 brings for our diva, and maybe, hopefully, we'll get a new change from her for the better. Aside from the Diddy case, something else has been supposedly exposed about our diva this year. I've talked about it before in another video on Inform Overload, but for those of you watching for the first time, there's a rumor going around that Jenny from the block has never stepped foot onto a block in her life. Well, an H&R block maybe. Jennifer is being slammed for supposedly lying about her own empire that she built. Lopez really milked, and still does, her past history about growing up in the Bronx, and how times were extremely tough for her as a child. Which, before, rags to riches stories were a huge cash grab, because everyone wanted that opportunity to happen in their life. Now, I'm still waiting for mine. A few parts of her upcoming documentary, The Greatest Love Story Ever Told, which delves into the life of her and Ben throughout these 20 years. Yikes. After with what we know now, shines a little light in her past. And the specific video that has been speculating around the internet is the one where she is in front of a mirror playing with her hair. It reminds me like when I was 16 in the Bronx, running up and down the block. Crazy little girl who used to F and be wild and no limits. All dreams. Yeah, this did not end well on social media and sparked a huge backlash on her image. A TikToker by the name of Sillaminian calls her out. "We weren't running up and down the block like that, even as a kid. What block were you running up and down on? Do you have any footage of this? Pictures of you being in the Bronx? Being a normal child?" Of course, things might have changed in the last few decades with people choosing to stay inside more, technology advancements, rise in crime. Yeah, I wouldn't be running up and down a block either anymore. However, another TikToker, Pictures by Angela, whose video has now since been removed, I believe, has exposed Jenny from the block to have attended a private high school, specifically the Preston High. I saw your high school photo. You did not have hair like that. We also both attended an all-girls Catholic high school in an Irish and Italian neighborhood, so you weren't running up and down the block, she states. To remind you those who have returned for more Jenny videos, this school's tuition per year, as of today, is $12,395, and this doesn't include the general fee, senior luncheon, graduation fee. A user by the name of Carenza even commented, "I can't explain it, but every time JLo pops up and she's talking about the Bronx, she gives me Michael Scott vibes, and now I can't unsee it." That's not a good character to be compared with either. Let's see if she really chooses to keep her word in the following year. "I'm all about people changing for the better, but fool me 5, 10, 16 times, shame on me. Your image is everything in the A-list world. And man, has it become distorted for you, Lopez. Try and prove us wrong. I'll definitely be waiting. Oh, and try not to get anyone else fired for an autograph before that, okay?"
We all have friendships we regret, but I'm pretty sure Ashton Kutcher is regretting ever being friends with Puff Daddy. So his current relationship with his old pal is, oh, how do I say it? Uncomfortable. But the That 70s Show star should have known to walk away a long time ago. After all, Puff Daddy himself warned Ashton that things could go sideways. That threat, if you will, goes back to the days of Punk'd, the MTV prank show that Ashton hosted from 2003 to 2007. The show was originally going to just pull jokes on everyday folks until there was an early prank involving a fake body, always hilarious, that resulted in a $10 million lawsuit against Ashton Kutcher, MTV, and a Vegas hotel. So then the show was quickly retooled to punk celebrities like Freaky Muniz. Pretty sure Taylor Swift was on at one point. Now, as Ashton Kutcher and friends brainstormed new celebs to prank, somebody came up with Puff Daddy. Now, luckily for Ashton, word got to Puffy before any practical jokes were deployed, and on a 2018 episode of The Late Late Show with James Corden, the duo reminisced about the beginning of their friendship. So Puffy said, "I gave Ashton a call one day and said, 'I heard you're gonna punk me, and I just don't think that's a good idea. If you do that, that will not end well for you, but I think we should work out a deal.' Well, hindsight's 2020, folks. Working out a deal with Puff Daddy didn't didn't do so well for Ashton. Sources say that he's so exasperated that once again he's being dragged through the mud because of his past associations. What has been going on? Let's see. Danny Masterson, now we got Puff Daddy, and other stories we'll get to in a moment. And it's got Ashton convinced that maybe I should get out of Hollywood. In his view, it's the town's fault. It's just a cesspool. So if you don't know the name Danny Masterson, for those who are unversed, Ashton Kutcher and wife Mila Kunis wrote letters to a judge in support of Danny Masterson after he was convicted of SA, claiming he had been a good person. Now the letters went public, the couple faced massive backlash from fans online, and they did eventually apologize via Instagram. Ashton stepped down from his role as chair of his foundation that fights against those kinds of crimes. He's come under fire following the arrest of Puff Daddy on charges of racketeering, conspiracy, and a lot of other bad things. And there's been a lot of old clips of interviews of the two buddies, being bros, and folks questioning why. Now, Ashton mentioned that the duo became fast friends. He was like, oh yeah, we'd hang out, we'd watch football together. When asked about the depravity, and specifically the ickiness that went on at the infamous parties, he's like, I got a lot I can't tell. Nope, can't say that either. Sir, it might be time to start spilling the beans. And yes, while Puff Daddy has denied all allegations against him, he is currently behind bars at the Federal Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, waiting his trial that's not set to begin till May. Also, there might be another criminal case that Ashton might want to run away from because he's thinking about moving. So if we're going back to the year 2001, it was a February night, Ashton thought he'd been jilted after his date didn't answer the door. The original plan for the night was for him to pick her up at 8, but he was invited to watch the Grammys at a friend's house. So apparently he, called the girl around 7:30 to be like, hey, I'm gonna be later than 8. Called again to keep her posted on his whereabouts. He left a voicemail. She called back from her roommate's phone saying the house phone wasn't working. I think it was 8:24 at that point. She's like, yeah, I'm just getting out of the shower. I'm gonna go dry her hair. So Ashton was like, okay, cool. No big deal if I'm late. And also, sidebar, one of the first detectives at the scene later did see a blow dryer on the toilet seat, so could be legit. So according to Ashton, shortly after 10 p.m., he was like, hey, I'm on my way. There was no answer. He decided to not go straight there. He's like, hey, I would like to touch base first. When he got there, her car was in the driveway, but he thought she might be mad at him because he was late and purposely not answering. So he's like, oh no, I just left. Well, there's a reason she wasn't answering. Her body was no longer, conscious. It was found by her roommate with 47 wounds the next day. But Ashton was like, oh no, I just thought I was stood up. And that is a direct quote from the Los Angeles County Deputy District Attorney. He's like, yeah, no, Ashton just showed up. So Ashton also thought he saw red wine on the floor. And turns out, yeah, the evidence showed that that was actually Ashley's bodily you-know-whats. She'd already been away at that point. But the LAPD was like, look, Ashton wasn't a big deal at the time. He, was just a mutual friend. They were just casually dating. It was just, a fling, if you will. He wasn't a long-term relationship. He had no ties to her. He had gone, so her name was Ashley. I think I've already mentioned that. They dated for 2 weeks, couple of little things here and there. They went to a housewarming party. They made plans to get dinner and drinks. So allegedly, Ashley's life was ended by a man named Michael Gargiulio. He was sentenced to end of his life in 2021 for the loss of her life and that of his neighbor, Maria Bruno. Now, sadly, the only reason this case is coming back to life about 20 years later is because of all of the hullabaloo with Ashton and the controversies. Because here's the thing, folks think that Ashton might know more than he did because his fingerprints were everywhere all over the door. And actress Christina Ricci seemingly called him out on Instagram with a warning to awesome guys who have been proven to be awful privately. Comedian Kathy Griffin weighed in, saying, people who needed to stand up for people because they were their bros. And then there was one response that caught me off guard. That of Chrissy Carnell Bixler, former girlfriend of Danny Masterson, one of 3 women who accused him of harm, and she posted a cryptic message to her Instagram story, saying, Dear Ashton, I know the secrets your role model keeps for you, ones that would end you. Did you forget I was there? You were on speakerphone that night you called Danny, February 21st, 2001. I hear everything. I heard the plan. In my opinion, you're just as sick as your mentor. So it's assumed that she was referencing the passing of Ashley Ellerin. Now, this statement was later clarified in an Instagram comment saying, Ashton was in his car for over an hour outside of Ashley's house, speaking with his manager about what to do to protect his career and reputation. So the internet has hit the ground running with theories that Ashton either lied about the passing of said girlfriend, or might have been involved with the crime itself. Now, during the 2019 trial, Ashton did give his testimony to the court, saying, "I didn't know she had passed away till the next day. He just called the police before they could figure out his DNA was on the door handle. He was freaking out about that. And because he fully cooperated with the investigation, he was never treated as a suspect." His 40-minute long testimony included mentioning once again that, that stain on the ground. "I just peered through the window to see if I could see her." But he's like, "Oh no, that just wasn't alarming. Like, I went to her house days before. It was like a crazy party. It was a rager." He thought it was just a stain left over from that. Now, as for the man who allegedly took the poor girl's life, he had met her months earlier. He had offered to fix her tire, left a business card promoting his air conditioning repair services. In 2010, the county sheriff's office described him as a bragger, a BS artist. He would meet and befriend and associate with women, form a superficial relationship with them, and ultimately, that would be the end of their life. So he was every woman's nightmare. He told a number of people he was in the movies and was a high-end plumber for celebrities. Now, there was somebody who testified in the trial that said that he was living a block away from the poor girl at the time and would frequently show up at her house unannounced. Apparently, his vehicle had been parked outside at awkward hours of the day, seemingly an attempt to surveil the poor girl. Now, this man was caught in 2008 when his DNA evidence was found following the attempted ending of life of Michelle Murphy, who did testify at the 2019 trial, by the way, saying initially in the days, weeks, and months after it happened, she barely slept. So after all of this, sounds like Ashton and Mila kind of want to flee the country to avoid all of these things following them. And like, hey, if you can get out, get out. Good luck, folks.
Now, one thing that was emphasized was that Oprah's show came before everything else, including her employees' families. When Oprah launched the OWN network, the first show she premiered was season 25, Oprah Behind the Scenes. Now, in that episode, she asked women that worked for her to speak about their experiences, and they did not hold back. Now, a large portion of the women who worked for Oprah had their own families, and they spoke about how they had to make certain sacrifices in their personal lives for the success of the show. They talked about the challenges they faced as working moms, and one of them was quoted as saying, "I had to be okay with making sacrifices for work. I hope I inspire that passion in my children." Now, Oprah thanked them for working long hours and sacrificing their personal lives, but made it clear that it was necessary and par for the course. I mean, yes, it is important to be dedicated to your work, but not having the balance of being able to be with your family just seems way too extreme. I mean, you'd think with Oprah being worth so much money, she'd be able to hire as many people as she needed and not leave people overworked or missing important events in their lives. Now, to be honest, I really hate that rule. Now, this was just reaffirmed by Libby Moore, who spent 11 years working as Oprah's chief of staff. "I hit the job jackpot," she told Women's Agenda from her New York base. "It was like winning a grand slam. It was extraordinary, and even now, 5.5 years after leaving, it's actually hard to articulate because it was so massive," she said. Now, to say that the job was consuming was a vast understatement. An average day saw Libby arrive for work between 6:30 and 7 a.m. and leave between 10 to 11 p.m. Now, the show was syndicated to 144 countries, and the demands were constant. Libby would routinely reply to 250 emails while watching the taping of the talk show, and that was just 1 hour of her 15-hour day. "I got to take care of her so that she could do what she did best. It was my pleasure to support her in that way," Libby explained. As far as pressure goes, the highs were super high and the lows were super low. Not because of Oprah, because of everything else swirling around that level of power, money, and fame. "I wasn't very good at balancing my life. As amazing as the job was and the friendship that Oprah and I had, my personal life was really suffering. I had 3 long-term relationships while I was in that job," she says. "I could not continue any longer in the position. I needed to take a leap of faith and see where I would land." Wow, that is very intense. Then there's also the fact that Oprah makes everyone sign NDAs. Now, this isn't too surprising, but most NDAs are for a limited time. Hers though, well, her staff must sign lifetime agreements. In the year 2000, Oprah defended the restrictive gag order for employees, saying, "I have to function in an environment where I feel I could trust my employees." Now, honestly, this just feels extreme, but it seems like they take this quite seriously, as Elizabeth Cody, a former producer for Harpo Productions, wanted to write a tell-all book about her experiences, but she was unable to. Now, the whole thing went through court, but Oprah had a strong team. Now, in addition to having NDAs that keep her safe, she also has the best security team. Oprah once hired Michael J. White to her security team before he went on to become the first black actor to play a superhero. White is trained in Taekwondo, Jiu-Jitsu, and numerous other martial arts. Now, it seems like Oprah really puts an emphasis on safety, physical, and intellectual. Something else is that you need to be prepared to deal with controversies and the potential there could be lawsuits and you might be called in to testify. Or the fact that a case could completely throw your life for a loop. You see, in the spring of 1996, according to CBS News, the United Kingdom experienced an outbreak of mad cow disease. Per the FDA, the disease destroys cows' central nervous system, and if humans eat infected beef, they can contact a deadly variant. Now, during the mad cow scare, the Oprah Winfrey Show booked Howard Lehman, and the former cattle rancher had adopted a vegetarian lifestyle and went to work for the Humane Society's Eating with Conscious Animal Welfare campaign, and he appeared on the show to discuss the threat of mad cow to Americans. Now, he pointed out that feeding the remains of mad cow infected cattle to other animals could have facilitated the spread, and that such practices were common in the US. Now, Oprah was left stunned by this. Now, with Oprah's influence, right after the episode aired, beef prices plummeted for almost 2 weeks, hitting a 10-year low. Now, as a result, a group of Texas cattle ranchers sued Oprah for $10.3 million, alleging that her remarks caused undue harm to the entire beef industry. Now, one Texas rancher, Paul Engler, lost an estimated $6.7 million and organized a class action libel lawsuit against Oprah and her show's producers for besmirching American beef. Now, after a 6-week trial in Texas, she won, but I mean, just imagine having to go through all of that. Now, this wasn't a rule for her staff, but for who was paying them. The first year of her talk show, Oprah gave her staff members rolls of toilet paper. Now, in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Oprah said she put a special message in the rolls back in 1986. Now, this came in the wake of management refusing to give the staff raises. They said, direct quote, "Why do they need more money? They're a bunch of girls." I said, well, it's a bunch of girls who are now doing a national show. And they said they're in the same room, with the same desks, in the same office, on the same street. They don't need any more money, recalled Oprah. So if management wasn't going to help, Oprah decided that she would find a way to reward her employees. So that first year, I gave everyone bonuses. I had a big dinner, and my idea of being creative was to have $10,000 rolled up into toilet paper rolls at the dinner as gifts because I couldn't get my management to pay them, she revealed. Then I went to management and said, if you don't pay them, I'm not going to work. By the next year, it was like, I'm not going to keep paying them, I shouldn't have to pay everybody out of my salary. That informed me that if I ever get my own business, I'm going to pay people well, she said. Now, it's actually really good that she did this and created a change, especially for the times. And Oprah also makes sure that all of her staff are acting appropriately. You see, the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls opened in Johannesburg in 2007. This was one of Oprah's passion products, as she founded it with $40 million of her own money, and she even hand-selected the 152 students who attended. But less than a year after the school opened, 6 of the 152 students who had been personally selected came forward to accuse dorm matron Virginia Tiny MacGobo of mistreating them. Virginia pleaded not guilty, and her trial was ongoing. She was arrested in November 2007 and released on bail, where she faced 14 different charges. "It has shaken me to my core," Oprah said, of returning to South Africa with a team of private detectives to investigate the allegations and personally speak with the girls. "This has been one of the most devastating, if not the most devastating, experiences in my life," she said. Now, in the end, Oprah fired all the matrons no matter what, and following the first trial, she was then sued by the headmistress of the school for defamation. She alleged that Oprah defamed her by implying she was covering up the mistreatment going on at the school. However, this case was later settled outside of court before the arranged trial, according to CNN.
So Justin Baldoni did try to put chatter of a feud with Blake Lively to bed after the rumor mill went into overdrive about the potential tension between the pair earlier this year. The rumors began following the New York City premiere of their film, It Ends With Us, when fans noticed that the two weren't posing together on the red carpet. Well, Blakely was photographed with her husband Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, and nobody knows why he was on the red carpet, and her co-stars Jenny Slate and Brandon Sklenar, Justin was seen appearing on the red carpet solo, maybe on occasion with his wife. Now, fans of Blake Lively noticed she wasn't following him on Instagram. Actually, none of the cast members were. Now, obviously an Instagram follow isn't exactly concrete evidence, but it does raise eyebrows when you're trying to promote a film. In an interview with Entertainment Tonight, Justin said that Blake should direct a sequel to the film, saying, and I quote, "I think Blake Lively's right to direct. That's what I think." There was another interview where he talked about working with complex personalities on set, saying every movie is a miracle, and then of course you're navigating complex personalities and trying to get everybody on the same page with the same vision, and mistakes are always made, and then you figure out how to move past them. Blake Lively dodged a question about building trust with Baldoni as a scene partner. She said, this movie was such a challenge because you have scenes that are deeply painful and traumatic and physical, but you also have scenes that are full of levity and light and romance. And normally when I see this type of character on screen, you know what's gonna happen, and you're like, oh, that guy's full of red flags. Now, Blake was a co-executive producer on the movie, and she revealed that Ryan Reynolds wrote a pivotal scene of the film, which ruh-roh. She said, oh yeah, the iconic rooftop scene, my husband actually wrote it. Nobody knows, but now you do. She's like, oh yeah, he works in everything I do, I work in everything he does. So his wins, his celebrations are mine and mine are his. Well, sure. Yeah. All of this painted Blake Lively in a negative light as she promoted the movie also as a romantic comedy and not what it really was. In an interview, she was asked what she would say if anyone out in the public were to talk to her about the issues the movie shows, and she's like, oh, it'd be like asking for my address, my phone number, or my location share. You're talking about a film with heavy subject matter, and why are you not discussing the heavy subject matter? A lot of folks said that she was out of touch, and it created a lot of negative discussion, saying that Blake Lively ignored the domestic harm issue that the movie features, focused on her own personal gains. She was also promoting her hair care line at the same time as the premiere, which received some negative criticism, and rightfully so. No matter how much Jennifer Lopez tries to stay out of drama, the fashionista seems to be constantly taking the blame for other people's struggles. Most recently, the passing of a TikToker, Kyle Marissa Roth, is being pinned on J.Lo. And the story is interesting, albeit sad. So the content creator sadly lost her life on April 15th after a battle with colon cancer. And a lot of folks on social media were quick to point fingers at J.Lo. So on her TikTok page, Roth shared celebrity gossip content, sometimes posting about Jenny from the block. And according to past videos, J.Lo's negative reaction to this had a direct impact on her income, particularly after Roth's account was banned after she used footage from the multi-talents film about growing up in the Bronx, the greatest love story never told. The late entertainer said that Lopez's narcissism single-handedly crushed her small business, leaving her unable to download or save content that had gotten her billions of views, saying J.Lo has cost me more than 4 figures of income just from March 2024, Roth alleged after making a new account. Losing out on money is hard for anyone, but she mentioned that she passed away of colon cancer, it's on her. She said that a week before she passed away. Little ominous. Dave Grohl has experienced his fair share of relationship drama while in the public eye, including multiple cheating scandals. So, snowboarder Tina Bassick dated Grohl for 2 years in the 90s. Following their split, she alleged that he was seeing another woman during their relationship, and she recalled him being busy while they dated. She wrote about this in her 2003 memoir, Pretty Good for a Girl, the autobiography of a snowboarding pioneer. She cited his career as a point of contention between them. Despite trying to get details from Dave Grohl, the athlete wrote that he told her nothing and broke things off. She's like, all I got was a 5-minute phone call from him after 5 weeks of me calling and trying to get a hold of him because I just had to know if these rumors were true and I had to hear it straight from the source. So the Foo Fighters rocker has been married twice, and he has stepped outside of his marriage both times. He and first wife Jennifer Lee Youngblood married in 1994, and he said, when I met my wife, we went out on a few dates, I decided I wasn't ready for a serious relationship, so I just stopped calling. After 3 months, I had a revelation and called her back. She picked up the phone and said, oh, I thought I'd never hear from you again. The pair finalized their divorce in 1997 after he admitted to infidelity. He moved on and tied the knot with current wife Jordan Bloom in 2003. They share 3 daughters, Violet, Harper, and Ophelia. But in September of 2024, the singer admitted to cheating once again, revealing that he had fathered a daughter outside of his marriage in an Instagram statement. I think most folks have moved on a little too quickly from all the awful stuff Joaquin Phoenix has done in recent history. Most notably when he dropped out of a gay romance film just 5 days before filming was set to start in Mexico after just getting cold feet over the project. So he was set to play an on-screen lover opposing Danny Ramirez in this 1930s. Joaquin Phoenix developed the screenplay for the detective love story with Haynes and John Raymond, with a source saying the actor had trepidation over the project amid rumors he was uncomfortable with the film's graphic scenes, although other sources counteract that he's the one who brought the project to the director initially. Haynes told Variety in September 2023 that Joaquin began creating the film with fragments of ideas. Basically, it was just this wonderful, organic way to create the script, and Joaquin was the one pushing it further into more dangerous territory, specifically of that nature. The film was set to be rated NC-17 and feature a relationship that would challenge audiences. Entire sets had been built before he exited the film. So this film kind of hinged on his casting. It had already been pitched to international distributors. His role cannot be recast. The crew is out of work and stakeholders still need paying. That's not getting cold feet, my dude. That's putting an entire team of hardworking people out of work and also harming the chances of more risky projects in this vein getting the necessary support that they'll need in the future. Brooke Schofield has issued an apology after resurfaced tweets showed the influencer defending George Zimmerman over the passing of Trayvon Martin. The TikTok star, who co-hosts the popular Cancelled podcast with Tana Mojo, shared a nearly 4-minute video on August 3rd where she addressed the very insensitive tweets that she posted between 2012 to 2015. In a clip, a tearful Brooke described her past opinions as disturbing, wrong, horrible, and disgusting. She attempted to explain her mindset at the time that she made the tweets, noting that she was living with her grandparents, and she said that, as is true for a lot of grandparents, they're a bit less progressive than a lot of us are now. She said that her grandfather was a right-wing conservative, and the only thing that she had ever been exposed to were conservative political commentators and news outlets. She said that she still should have known better. She mentioned that sometimes you have these people that you put on a pedestal, and you think everybody older than you is smarter than you and knows everything, and they do not. She acknowledged that it wasn't until after college that she began to shift her way of thinking. She apologized for not addressing the tweets sooner. She explained that she thought it would cause more harm to bring them to light again. And she said, "I'm very, very sorry to anybody who was hurt by the tweets because obviously they are very hurtful." So in the year 2020, at the time, current and former staffers began airing claims that Ellen had mistreated employees and fostered a toxic work environment on her very popular daytime show. And then celebrities started sharing their own stories about the comedian. So stars like Brad Garrett and Leah Thompson expressed some very negative sentiments towards Ellen, claiming her nice persona was a facade. And we'll get into that in a moment. While others, including Scooter Braun and Katy Perry, defended the star. And honestly, hindsight's 2020, Scooter Braun defending somebody is a bit of a red flag in my opinion. So let's dive into things. Starting with Brad Garrett, the Everybody Loves Raymond star. He called out the comedian via Twitter on July 31st of the same year, and he appeared on Ellen's show multiple times, so I think he's got a good grasp of things. So he shared the Variety article about the comedian. The one with the letter that was apologizing to staffers who felt disrespected, because in that letter, Ellen said that she hadn't been able to closely manage the show as it grew in recent years, and then Brad Garrett said, sorry, but it comes from the top, and tagged Ellen directly. He continued on to say that he knew more than one person who was treated horribly by Ellen, adding that her behavior was common knowledge. Oof. Let's go over to Leah Thompson, the Back to the Future star. So she added on to that message. She said that Ellen's mistreatment of others was common knowledge. She said this in a reply to People's Report about Brad's comment and said, "True story, it is." She didn't elaborate and she didn't need to. Let's see, who else has something to say? Oh, when Mariah Carey appeared on The Ellen Show in 2008, Ellen was pushing her to announce her pregnancy. Now, Mariah said quietly that she didn't want to discuss that on television, and I respect that. So then Ellen asked her to toast with something instead. So Ellen asked her to toast instead, effectively forcing her to admit whether or not she was carrying, since if you're carrying, you're kind of advised against imbibing. And Mariah said, "I can't believe you did this to me, Ellen." And then Ellen was like, "Well, let's toast to you not being pregnant, if you're not pregnant." Newsflash, folks, Mariah Carey sadly miscarried shortly after the interview. Now, a stylist from New York has outed her worst celebrity experience in a series of TikTok videos, and originally it had me wondering who an evil chick was. So the stylist's name is Tahira, and she discussed her experiences with famous people. Some were positive, others were extremely negative. She said in 2016, Pitch Perfect actress Anna Kendrick stopped by her store to prepare for a book signing. And according to the stylist, Anna Kendrick said that she would only wear their clothes for 10 grand. So the stylist said she wouldn't speak to me, which is strike one. She wouldn't say anything. Anna then gave a look to her PR lady, who took the stylist outside and repeated, "If you guys want her to wear a look, it is 10 grand. Okay, Okay folks, so if you don't know how Hollywood works, typically stylists give celebrities free outfits to wear in exchange for their promo of the outfit on social media, and obviously at the event. Sometimes stylists will even allow the celebrity to keep the style for free. But like, would you spend $10K just to have a celebrity wear one of your outfits to a book signing? Like, what outfit is even worth that much? So going back to the stylist, she revealed in a second TikTok video that she actually ran into Anna while working at Barney's department store years later, and she asked her colleague to work with her instead because she didn't want to deal with the attitude. And then, apparently after the colleague helped Anna, the colleague came back over and was like, do you have any idea who that is? And she's like, oh yeah, she's an actress. And the colleague was like, yeah, I have no idea who she is, but she just got so nasty with me. And it's like, girl, I get it, you're talented, but that's no reason to be rude to people. I'm sorry to break it to everybody, but I've heard nothing but bad things from anybody who's ever met Bill Nye. I know he's a hero to a lot of you, and it breaks my heart to say, but apparently it's a Hollywood open secret that the man is a total jerk. So when I was scouring Reddit for tea for today, user Bravesgirl said they had a friend who apparently they were at some art show and Bill Nye was there, and it was an art show for like a younger demographic, and Bill was making fun of the artwork in front of the artists. And they said, and I quote, "What a jerk." User K80bot said that Bill Nye was a guest judge on a reality show that they were on back in 2014. He was a jerk and made some very comments to them about their engineering skills, which like, ew, gross. They said both of those were two of the most arrogant people they'd ever encountered. The actual astronauts, on the other hand, were as down to earth as could be, which great for them, but also just like, Bill Nye, really? That's just so sad. So James Corden saw his career skyrocket when he brought the world carpool karaoke while hosting The Late Late Show, only for the public to turn on the talk show host, leading to a lot of folks to wonder, okay, what was going on? Why does everybody hate James Corden? There's a lot of stories that exist that call into question his off-camera personal conduct, which has been sadly widely documented by the media. Also, are we all forgetting the infamous and very uncomfortable encounter with Patrick Stewart at the 2010 Glamour Awards, where Sir Patrick Stewart told James Corden off for looking like he would rather be anywhere else? Also, it doesn't help that James Corden's performance in The Prom as a queer character was seen as very stereotypical and offensive, and his Golden Globe nomination for the role only heightened the outrage. And by the way, James Corden has been the recipient of criticism not just from folks like us, folks at home, but from a lot of significant industry workers, other than Sir Patrick Stewart. British TV director Craig Duncan worked with James Corden on the British game show The League of Their Own, where the host was ultimately telling the director how to direct, which like, you don't do that, you don't do that. When speaking with the crew about how to capture the scene, James Corden apparently intervened, yelling, "What the F is going on here? It's obvious what you do. It's so obvious how you get it. It's stupid. Dude, that is not the move." This happened after the director had already observed James Corden ridiculing and embarrassing a writer. Which, by the way, James Corden was also reportedly very rude to the staff of quite a few of the projects he was involved in. So, when asked by Jimmy Fallon to name 2 members of his Late Late Show crew in the Spill Your Guts segment that he did once, he couldn't do it. He opted to drink a fish smoothie instead. Which like, sir, you can't name 2 people on your crew? Come on. Famed restaurateur Keith McNally, who owns the Manhattan French place Balthazar, you know, the big restaurant, banned James Corden from his place in 2022 because McNally claimed the host was rude to the waiting staff on not 1 but 2 separate occasions. Apparently James Corden demanded all these freebies and he threatened to post bad reviews, and it was just really icky. During an interview with comedian Theo Vaughn, Roseanne Barr once said, "Nobody passed away in the mass extinction event of the 1930s and 40s. That's the truth." And hey, as if casual major world event denial wasn't horrific enough for her, she immediately escalated her rhetoric, saying, "It should happen. People should pass away right now, because they cause all the problems in the world. But it never happened." I'm sorry, that statement made my jaw hit the floor. She, once upon a time, decided to do this really gosh awful interpretation of the national anthem. She got kicked off of the reboot of her own sitcom with a very awful tweet about former White House advisor Valerie Jarrett. She championed problematic conspiracy theories during the crazy world events a couple years back, and I think that's everything I can say without getting thrown off the internet. because it only gets worse from there, folks.
Oprah has been in some hot water lately, but I'm sure it's no shock to hear that she's been lying to everyone about so many different things. From her weight to her guests she's had on, Oprah is now being exposed as a liar. Throughout her career, Oprah has been made fun of for her appearance, and especially her weight. She even said, "It was public sport to make fun of me for 25 years. I have been blamed and shamed, and I blamed and shamed myself." One hurtful moment came in her early career. One hurtful moment came in early in her career when she landed on fashion critic Mr. Blackwell's list. I was on the cover of some magazine and it said dumpy, frumpy, and downright lumpy. I didn't feel angry. I felt sad. I felt hurt. I swallowed the shame. I accepted that it was my fault. Now this is just honestly sad, and throughout her entire career people have been focused on her appearance. But with this, she would lose weight and then ended up gaining it back. It was a constant cycle she was stuck in. Now one controversial moment regarded her weight loss in 1988. She started her show off by taking off an oversized coat and wheeling out a wagon holding 67 pounds of animal fat, the amount that she had lost in less than 5 months. It was full of theatrics. Now, the episode drew huge attention, earning the highest ratings in the show's history. However, years later, Oprah expressed regret about it, stating that it was simply an ego trip and admitting that she eventually regained all the weight. That's not all with her weight though. She's recently been in another controversy regarding it. For the past 10 years, Oprah worked with Weight Watchers, a diet program that was all the craze. Although it has been criticized by a lot of people as being harmful and promoting disordered eating, Oprah swore by it and promoted it every chance she got. She said the Weight Watchers program helped her lose her weight, but she came under fire in 2023 saying that she was actually using an unnamed weight loss drug, and that's how she was able to lose a lot of weight. So she lied to a bunch of people and her audience honestly felt hurt by it. Then in 2024, she decided to step down and stop working with Weight Watchers altogether. It seemed like she didn't need them anymore now that she had her weight loss education. Many people are saying she's a sellout and that everything she's ever stood for was a lie. And hey, I can't blame people for being upset over this. It's very likely that she's taking Ozempic or Ozempic adjacent, which is actually a medication for people who are diabetics. A lot of normal people every day can't afford this medication and also don't want to take it from the people who really need it, diabetics. I mean, I'm glad she's happy with her body now, but it feels like she tricked a lot of people into believing something that will never come true. It's just scummy, and a lot of people have stopped being a fan of hers. Then there's how Oprah grew up. Kitty Kelly is a journalist and author of best-selling unauthorized biographies. She wrote one about Oprah and dropped some huge bombshells. Oprah was born in Mississippi to a single teenage mother and grew up in extreme poverty. During her childhood, the cost of raising Oprah became too much for her mother to handle, so she was sent to live with her biological father. Since then, Oprah has come forward about how she had been mistreated and taken advantage of by her cousin, uncle, and family friend. As a young teenager, and after suffering for years, she ran away from home, and a year later, she became pregnant. She gave birth to a son, but he was premature and passed away only a few weeks later. Kitty, though, says this isn't true. Oprah claims she never had any new dresses or dolls and had to adopt 2 cockroaches as pets growing up in rural Mississippi. Her cousin contends she was actually relatively spoiled as a little girl. Where Oprah got that nonsense about growing up in filth and roaches, I have no idea, Catherine Carr Esther said. I've confronted her and asked, why do you tell such lies? Oprah told me that's what people want to hear. The truth is boring. Something else revealed is that Oprah still does not know the true identity of her father. Esther told Kelly who he is, on the condition she not publish the information until Winfrey's mother comes clean to her daughter. Vernon Winfrey, the man who raised Oprah, is also frustrated with the way she has played fast and loose with the truth. She may be admired by the world, but I know the truth, he says. So does God, and so does Oprah. 2 of us remain ashamed. Oprah's relationship with her stepmother has soured, and it was exposed to the world. It was reported that she was accused of being heartless by her own stepmother after she was kicked out of the 5-bedroom South Nashville home she shared with the Oprah's father for 14 years. Barbara Winfrey told the Daily Mail that her life had been deliberately ruined by the talk show legend following a bitter divorce with Vernon Winfrey. Oprah's a billionaire 3 times over. Her help lived better than this, Barbara pointed out, adding, she said publicly that she offered to sell the house and give me the proceeds, but that was a lie, and she never said that. Oprah owns a property all over the world, so there is no reason to sell this house other than to spite me. It's a personal vendetta. Legal papers claim that Oprah was involved in a conspiracy to separate her father and stepmother, and essentially make the latter homeless. What she has done is nothing short of evil, but she doesn't scare me. Her actions cause me to disrespect her," Barbara stated. Yikes, that's not a good look at all considering she's all about helping people, but she doesn't help out her family. Then there was the book club controversy. Back in the day, Oprah had a book club where she would promote a book on her show and usually have the author on for an interview. This would result in the book going on the best-selling list, but she had a scandal with this in 2005. Oprah added James Frey's book A Million Little Pieces to the reading list, and in October 2005, James appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show to promote his book, which the talk show host had previously said she couldn't put down, calling it a gut-wrenching memoir that is so raw and so real. Now, when James was promoting the books on talk shows or other media outlets, it was referred to as a memoir, but large parts of the stories were later found to be exaggerated or fabricated, sparking a media controversy. This was discovered after an investigation conducted by the Smoking Gun. They determined that James had actually fictionalized some of the story, so he was caught lying, and the fact that Oprah promoted it, it was not a good look at all. Controversy arose after Oprah initially defended the book, but she later confronted James on her show in January of 2006. Winfrey began the live program by telling him, "It is difficult for me to talk to you because I feel really duped, but more importantly, I feel you betrayed millions of readers." Frey admitted to Winfrey that he had altered and embellished details of his story, including the fact that he had been in jail for just several hours, not 87 days, as stated in his book. Oprah also confronted the publisher of A Million Little Pieces, saying her staff have been contacted about possible inaccuracies in the book, only to be told that the publishing company stood by James' story as a work of non-fiction. During the show, the publisher acknowledged that A Million Little Pieces had not been fact-checked. It seems like Oprah did her research about the book afterwards, but her helping spread misinformation is truly dangerous, and she hasn't taken a lot of accountability. If she tried to get away with this, who knows what other lies she'd make up.
Now, Diddy has finally been exposed for his crime ring and how he treated his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura. But apparently all of this was just an open secret in Hollywood, which is honestly really messed up. Now, a lot of celebrities have been to Diddy's parties and engaged in who knows what while there. I mean, multiple celebs have spoken out against Diddy, saying that they don't go to Diddy parties and that you just have to tell the man no over and over, which is honestly just so sketchy, and it's just like, why didn't anyone put a stop to this sooner? Now, Kanye West knew all about this allegedly, and in a 2022 interview, he claimed that Diddy was actually working with law enforcement as an informant, and that's why he was able to get away with what he did. Is this credible? No, not really, not at all, but it is something to think about. Not to mention, Diddy is friends with some very powerful people like Jay-Z and Beyonce, Oprah Winfrey, and the Kardashians. In 2023, Diddy's ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura filed a lawsuit against Diddy that was promptly settled the next day. Then on February 26, 2024, music producer Rodney Jones filed a lawsuit against him as well. On March 25th of this year, Homeland Security investigations served search warrants in the early morning raids on Diddy's homes in Los Angeles and Miami. Diddy was then arrested last week after being accused of criminal activity going back to at least 2008. He has pleaded not guilty to all charges and wanted to be released on bail, but a judge denied his request. We'll now just have to wait and see what happens, but it appears everyone who was a part of this or helped cover it up will be exposed. Oscar-winning director Roman Polanski was expelled from the Academy in 2018, as the expulsion came more than 40 years after a horrendous legal incident. In 1977, he was convicted of a serious crime, but he fled the United States before being jailed. Now, since he fled the country before sentencing, legally he still has to answer for all charges. But due to this, he can never come back to the United States, because if he ever does, he will be arrested. Now, one of the big problems is that numerous big shots in the movie industry have already written countless petitions asking to pardon Roman, which is honestly disgusting. Now, more than 100 people in the film industry, including Woody Allen, Martin Scorsese, David Lynch, Wes Anderson, Harrison Ford, among many others, signed a petition in 2009 calling for his release. Now, on October 30th, 2015, a Polish judge denied a request by the United States to extradite Roman, so it appears he'll never face the justice his victims deserve. Now, Woody Allen and Mia Farrow began dating in 1980 and were together for 12 years until their split. Now, during that time, the couple adopted 2 children, Dylan and Moses Farrow, and had 1 biological child, Ronan Farrow. Now, Mia and Woody split in 1992, shortly before Woodley publicly revealed that he was dating Soon-Yi Previn, Mia's 21-year-old daughter she had adopted with her ex-husband, Andre Previn. Woody began dating his technical stepdaughter. Now, Mia reportedly learned of this relationship early in 1992 when she discovered some photographs of Soon-Yi in Woody's apartment. Now, the two started dating when she was 21 years old, and they married 6 years later when Soon-Yi was 27 and Woody was 62. Now, when asked about his affair, Woody responded by saying, "The heart wants what it wants, there's no logic to those things. You meet someone and you fall in love, and that's that." Ronan Farrow said it best when describing his family dynamic: "He's my father married to my sister, that makes me his son and his brother-in-law." Now, this is all just so crazy because it seems like no one really cares about this, which is just insane. The situation is just so icky, not to mention Woody has been accused of committing some other crimes too, but people still continue to be in his movies and support him. Alfred Hitchcock was an interesting man to say the least, but what people didn't really know was that there was a dark side to him. Now, his first of many recorded instances of actor mistreatment occurred on the set of his film The 39 Steps. He would announce lead actress Madeleine Carroll's presence on set by yelling, "Bring on the Birmingham tart," and would leave her handcuffed to her co-star for hours on end, claiming to have lost the key. Now, he took pleasure in agitating his actresses with crude sexual jokes, and even going as far as making up a story about sleeping with Ingrid Bergman and having actress Janet Leigh filmed in the shower for a 6-day shooting period for Psycho. But by far the worst was his treatment of lead Tippi Hedren while shooting The Birds. Now, Hitchcock became infatuated with her, and after she refused some of his advances, he had live birds attached to her instead of mechanical ones for the shooting of a scene, which ultimately required her to be hospitalized. Later, Hitchcock's demands led to a horrible fight, according to Tippi. She then told him Marnie would be their last film together, and later recalled how Hitchcock told her he would destroy her career. He said, "I'll ruin your career," and he did ruin my career. He kept me under contract and paid me to do nothing for close to 2 years. Now, Tippi said this essentially ruined her career as a leading lady, and it's such a shame. Now, everyone knows about Britney Spears' meltdowns in 2006 and 2007. Now, amidst her split from Kevin Federline, she shaved her head and was sworn by paparazzi at a gas station, and in retaliation, she smashed a photographer's car with an infamous green umbrella. Now, later, at the beginning of 2008, she was put on a 5150 hold in the hospital. A week after this, she was sent back to the hospital on a 5150 hold, and her father Jamie was granted temporary conservatorship over the star. Now, in July that year, he requested for it to be extended, which it was. 2 years before the temporary court-ordered conservatorship was supposed to see its end, a judge then ruled that Jamie would retain control over his daughter for an indefinite period. Speaking of this period of time in her memoir, Britney said, "Even though I begged the court to appoint literally anyone else, and I mean anyone off the street would have been better, my father was given the job. And the court told me I was demented, and I wasn't even allowed to pick my own lawyer." Soon after the conservatorship was in place, she said her father said, "I just want to let you know, I call the shots. You sit right there in the chair and I'll tell you what goes on," she recalled. "I looked at him with a growing sense of horror. I'm Britney Spears now," he said. Britney also spoke out about that 13-year conservatorship as she hit out on her dad Jamie in the explosive memoir, as she opened up about the unrelenting control her family had over her, which, looking back, makes her feel sick. Now, people in Hollywood knew about this but didn't do anything. Finally, in 2019, fans started to realize that something was wrong, and they created the Free Britney movement. With fans backing Britney up, she felt like she finally had a voice and requested the conservatorship to end. Now, she and her father appeared in court multiple times over the year, and on November 12, 2021, the conservatorship was officially over. Now, so many people knew what was going on and directly profited off the whole situation though, which is just gross. And finally, a lot of people know that Judy Garland was treated poorly in the industry, but not that many people know the extent of it. She signed with MGM when she was just a teen, and she appeared on screen in the 1936's Pigskin Parade, a musical comedy about college football coaches. At that point, MGM execs were already bugging her about her weight. They told her she looked like a fat little pig with pigtails and placed her on a forced diet, something that would continue on in her career. The studio also restricted her calories so heavily that she unfortunately fell into cycles of starving and binging. In 1938, an MGM exec told her that she was so fat she looked like a monster, and when she was 18, Louis Mayer himself allowed her to consume only black coffee and chicken soup, along with 80 cigarettes and diet pills every 4 hours to reduce her appetite. Now this kept the weight off, but anytime she stopped dieting, her weight would skyrocket. Studio managers would send memos on her daily eating, including notes like Garland gained 10 pounds, costumes refitted, and Judy sneaked out between takes 7 and 8 this afternoon and had a malted milk. Now, poor girl, as she was treated absolutely horrible by MGM.
New photos from the night of one of Diddy's major lawsuits shine a whole new light on his relationship with then-girlfriend Jennifer Lopez. We'll get into all this and more in leaked Diddy party photo of Jennifer Lopez will change everything. Diddy, as you likely know by now, has been accused of some pretty heinous things by multiple people, including some past partners. Many lawsuits have been filed against the disgraced rapper. The lawsuit alleged that Diddy and an unnamed additional male celebrity harmed her inappropriately, while another, also unnamed, female celebrity watched. The plaintiff's story in the lawsuit was she attempted to sneak into Radio City Music Hall in 2000 for MTV's VMAs, but when she was unsuccessful, she ran into Diddy's driver. The driver told her to come back after the show, and when she did, he drove her to a large white house with a gated U-shaped driveway. The plaintiff further claims that upon entering the house, she was presented with a non-disclosure agreement and asked to sign. Once inside, she claims there was widespread use of substances, and when handed a beverage, they were in there too. In a bid to find somewhere safe to rest, the plaintiff claims that she entered an empty bedroom, and it wasn't long after she entered that the trio of celebrities allegedly followed. It was then that the multiple transgression happened, ultimately halting when the plaintiff struck Diddy in the neck. She was able to eventually escape the house and return home, but of course, the night left its mark. As reported by the Daily Mail, the lawsuit claims that the plaintiff fell into a deep depression which continues to affect every facet of her life. Diddy continues to assert his innocence. Back in October of this year, the Daily Mail obtained exclusive images of allegedly the very same after-party that this incident happened at, and the photos feature what appears to be a very angry J-Lo yelling at then-boyfriend and presently accused Sean Diddy Combs. The couple appears to be towards the wall of the room that is clearly still buzzing with party energy. Diddy appears to be dressed in what he wore to Radio City Music Hall that evening, a white shirt, baseball cap, and the new addition being what appears to be a bottle in his hand. In J-Lo's case, she had changed from her event outfit of the all-white ensemble with the bedazzled bandana to a colorful diamond and striped mini dress. As the party guests dance around the couple, the vibes could not be more different. Even directly beside J-Lo is who the Daily Mail has pointed out as her sister, Linda Lopez. She has a big smile on her face in some photos. It looks like she's continuing to dance the night away. In other photos, it's unclear if they became before or after the initial argument photo. J-Lo appears to be looking at Diddy in disdain or disappointment as he pours guests glasses from the bottle in his hand. In what the Daily Mail deems the next photo in the sequence, J-Lo is seen pushing away from the alleged confrontation and walking out of frame. As these are photos and not videos, there is no way of knowing exactly what was being said while the pictures were being taken unless one of the two stars steps forward. Though with the timing of the photos being obtained so close to the lawsuit being filed, it's made people look into the images a bit closer and wonder what the apparent argument could have been about. As of right now, J-Lo is not named in the lawsuit filed by the girl harmed at the allegedly same party. The lawsuit simply states Sean Diddy Combs and 2 unnamed celebrities were present. If it was this party, the house would be crawling with famous faces. This after-party event was co-hosted by Eminem and Dr. Dre. Some big-name guests that were included in the series of images the Daily Mail obtained from this night include music artist Jay-Z, magician David Blaine, model Carmen Cass, and rapper Ice-T, and more. To be clear, none of these people were named in the lawsuit either. They were simply present at the after party. There have been instances in the past when Diddy has hosted star-studded bashes that turn into his bad parties after all the talent has left. The US Sun reported that Diddy's 2005 VMAs after party went something like that. The event started as a party and was attended by big names like Eva Longoria and Paris Hilton, but the later half of the evening allegedly dissolved into one of Diddy's infamous freak-offs after the majority of the talent had left. The remaining party guests allegedly were moved from the nightclub to Diddy's mansion in the early morning, and this is where his inappropriate party happened. Footage from the later half of the party allegedly shows Diddy wearing the same outfit he had been wearing in the VMA after party pics. It's unclear if the incident at the 2000 MTV VMAs after party was a situation like that, or an isolated incident that happened during the party. Diddy is known for having an unsavory and violent past that is completely unrelated to the many lawsuits filed against him lately. Just under a year before the year 2000 after party, in December of 1999, Diddy and J-Lo were arrested after an an altercation in a Manhattan club. Reported at the time was that in the club, Diddy, J-Lo, Diddy's bodyguard, and another music artist named Shine got in a disagreement that resulted in a fight. Diddy and J-Lo were not harmed inside the bar and fled the scene taking a car. Forbes reported that the couple were being chased by police, and the New York Post reported that the car ran a red light before being pulled over by the police. It was during this stop that things started to go south for the famous couple. Inside the car, police found a stolen weapon, the discovery prompting the stars being taken into custody. Present at the station where the couple was taken was retired NYPD detective Derek Parker. After the event, he spoke to the New York Post, giving them an exclusive look into what it was like in the room that night. He said there were all these high-profile lawyers barricaded in the station house waiting to talk to the desk officer, and further went on to recall that J-Lo was first handcuffed to a pole inside the station and then later held for about 14 hours in detention. Of course, like I'm assuming anyone who just experienced a club uproar and arrest like she did, the retired detective said that J-Lo appeared distressed. J-Lo ended up getting released and cleared of all charges first after that 14 hours. She later shared in an interview that she was scared to death in the car at the time. Though J-Lo was cleared of any charges, Diddy wasn't, so a trial had to take place that lasted a few weeks. In addition to the incident at the club, prosecutors also alleged that Diddy and his bodyguard tried to bribe the driver of the getaway car $50,000 in exchange for him telling the police the weapon was his. One of the victims of the incident did testify as a witness at the trial. During her testimony, she claimed that she saw Diddy pulling out the weapon with his right hand, and then very soon after feeling immense pain in her face that later turned out to be caused by the There is a tie-in to this situation and the current Diddy situation. One of the recent lawsuits filed against Diddy came from producer Rodney Little Rod Jones Jr. He filed a civil lawsuit for non-consensual relations and harassment, and in a shocking turn of events, it also seems to possibly reference this 1999 incident as well. The suit claimed that on the day Homeland Security raided Diddy's home, he displayed his and bragged about getting away with using these weapons against people. It went further, saying that Diddy also confirmed to those present that he was responsible for the New York incident with the other rapper Shine. Not only that, but that J-Lo was the one who carried the firearm into the club for him and passed him the gun after he got into an altercation with another individual. Of course, you might notice that this would make J-Lo being in possession of the item and handing it to Diddy improbable if the original victim insisted she saw him pull it out. But it's not impossible, could have happened before the altercation began. In the end, Diddy was acquitted along with his bodyguard. Though it is over 2 decades after the incident, the victim, Natanya Rubin, is still fighting for justice. She joined Elizabeth Vargas Reports for an interview earlier in the year in which she shared that she still has 9 fragments of the projectile in her face. A follow-up interview revealed that Rubin was nervous even years later about sharing her story. She also said in the interview that she wouldn't mind if the case was reopened, even going so far as to say that as long as it didn't cause any health complications, she would be willing to have a doctor remove a part of the 9mm projectile in her face to be used as evidence in court. Another interesting moment in the J-Lo Diddy relationship history is a rumor from the early 2000s that was addressed in a recent interview on Jimmy Kimmel Live. The rumor was that while Diddy was dating J-Lo in the late 90s, early 2000s, Will Smith and his wife had propositioned the Jenny from the Block singer with an invitation to join them in bed. Allegedly, Diddy wasn't too happy with that and threatened to attack Smith. Never one to shy away from anything, Kimmel straight up asked Diddy if this was true. Insert clip here. At first, the music artist made absolutely no movements, just kept his face in a very serious mask. Eventually, he did respond with, "You really heard that?" and laughed the whole thing off, claiming he didn't know what Kimmel was talking about. The talk show host played into the bit, making a remark about how one can't believe everything they hear on the internet.